Your concept of self is everything when it comes to achieving your desired situation. This is Mekus with the Continence Club. My email's in the description if you want to work with me one-on-one, or if you have any additional video topics you would like, let me know and I will get back to you as soon as possible. With that being said, your self-concept, I'm going to bring to you today in this presentation a fundamental understanding of what this is, just so that you are able to successfully navigate more effectively, the process when it comes from going from your current situation to your desired situation. So let's get right into this video. I'm going to put a link in the description on another video I have on self-concept, but I'm going to put it together today and make it make more sense for you. And with that being said, it's time to explain what your concept of self is. And your self-concept is basically just your subjective assumption about who you are, a belief that becomes your objective reality. So to put it simply, it's the truth you hold about yourself. And so when it comes, when we're talking about bridging this gap today, when we're talking about your concept of self today, I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. And I also want to know if you ask these questions to yourself at all. And these questions are, what does your internal dialogue consist of? I even made a video topic on your inner conversations and the importance of controlling that, because it dictates what you're going to get in your desired situation. What do you catch yourself saying? What are the constant things on your mind throughout the day? What do you think about? Do you think about your current situation every day? Do you think about why you're so stuck? Why you can't progress anywhere? Is that what's on your mind? Because I'm sure that's what it is. It's what was on my mind for the longest when I didn't have much awareness about who I can become. And so that's why I know the thoughts in your mind throughout the day are scarcity thoughts, thoughts of limitation, thoughts of, negativity, right? So let me follow up and ask you overall, what do you think and feel about yourself? Chances are you don't really feel that good about yourself. Chances are you don't really think that you're capable of much. And this is why you're in your current situation. And that's why I make videos like this and created this channel, the Continence Club, because I understand what it feels like. I understand that it's not easy. And sometimes you just need the right information to get you to where you need to be. So again, let me ask you another question. How do you think others view you? And how do you currently believe the world works for you? The way people view you might not really be what you think. What if I told you that the way people view you is just a reflection of how you view yourself? The times whenever I was down and I didn't really respect myself, I can guarantee that a lot of people around me didn't really respect me either. But these days, as I live through life and I change my concept of self, I'm really starting to think highly of myself these days. And I really see it in the way people interact with me. And I'm here to tell you that the same can happen for you. I'm living proof. And successful people know this as well. People that really earn their keeps, they respect themselves. That's why they're successful in the first place. That's why they have their desired situation, because they were worthy enough of it. And so people are going to treat them the way they treat themselves. And the same is going to apply to you once you bridge this gap and change your self-concept. But I know you will after this video, because I know you're persistent. And so when we want to talk your current situation, what you may not understand about it is that you're keeping yourself trapped there through the content of your own mind. Many don't realize this hard truth, and you probably don't either. You're probably starting to come to terms with it. You might even be starting to realize it. But, it's really yourself. It's really your mindset that's keeping you stuck in your current situation. It's really not the government. It's not your elementary school teacher's fault. It's not that bully. It's not your neighbor, right? It's not your cat's fault. At the end of the day, everything comes back to you. You are constantly manifesting 24/7, whether you like it or not, whether you want to believe that or not. Your inner dialogue, your thought processes, your transmission of thought, that's what's creating your current situation. That's what's creating your desired situation. And this is a hard fact. And at the deepest level, your current situation is the reflection of the good or bad thoughts that you have, your inner dialogue. And so that's why I have to say, unless you control your mind and change the way you see yourself, you will never achieve your desired situation. It literally makes no sense. How can you achieve your desired situation if you don't feel worthy of it? If you keep thinking about where you're stuck, there's no way. And even if you do achieve your desired situation for some random reason, you're not going to be able to maintain it. And you're going to digress back towards your current situation. And I'm here to tell you that it's not your fault that you might have low self-esteem and that your self-concept, your concept of self might not be that great. You know, we honestly weren't taught to respect ourselves growing up. Think about it. We were taught to have everything right now, and we were taught to look up to everybody except for ourselves and to worry about what everybody else is doing except for your own life. You know, really think about it. We weren't really taught to respect our own time, right? Our own bodies, our own mind. But that's okay, because you watching this video have the privilege to change that about yourself. Like, how cool is that you can separate yourself from what everybody else is doing, because everybody isn't getting the results that they want. And there's a reason for that. And the beauty about it is that you can be the catalyst. You could be the one in your bloodline, in your family, to really step out of your comfort zone and create the life that you know is meant for you. You decided to separate yourself. You decided to do that when you watch this video, when you go out and make progress towards your desired situation, when you start to say no to people around you, right? You decided to separate yourself. And that's why I'm not surprised that you watch up until this point. That's why I'm not surprised that you're great, that you're a wonderful human being that's capable of doing whatever that you want to do. You know, I'm not surprised about that, right? And once you change the beliefs about yourself, you immediately see the world change. I'm here to tell you this is a fact. And although I'm not guaranteeing that you're going to see your desired situation tomorrow just because you change your concept of self, but one thing I will say is it can happen depending on your situation. I'm unique and you're unique. But one thing I will say is whenever I change my concept of self, the changes that I see around my environment, the way people interact with me, all of a sudden I'm a little lucky, right? It can happen to you too, right? You know, so start to walk like that. Walk like who you know you can be, right? You know, act like who you know you can be, you know, man or woman, right? And so as you bridge the gap over to your desired situation, there's a few things I want you to keep in mind as you go about that process. And it's that you just need to start to see yourself as bigger and better, worthy of all great things. It's funny because I know you might have been in competition or maybe in a business environment or somewhere where you feel like there's somebody in there that's pretty arrogant. Oh, he's full of himself. She's full of himself. She's always, you know, but the truth is, have you really thought about people like them? You know, one thing I've seen about people that might seem arrogant on the outside is that they just feel so good about themselves, right? And they probably don't even know. They're probably not even conscious of the fact that their self-concept is the reason why they seem pretty lucky, and then people are calling them arrogant. But the truth of the matter is they believe in themselves more than you believe in yourself. So let that sink in, right? They think highly of themselves. So you just got to give them credit for that, right? And until you start to think highly of yourself, and I'm not saying to literally be arrogant, but the thing is, it might not even be necessarily arrogance. That just might be an insecurity that you have because you don't think highly of yourself, right? And I've seen that these people seem to get what they want, and it seems like everything happens in their favor. But the truth is, they just hold themselves to such a high standard, and they're you know, what people like to say, feeling themselves, right? And so that's really what's going on at the deepest level. And so that's why I'm telling you today, see yourself as bigger and better and worthy of all things, because you really are. You're worthy of your desired situation. That's why you had it in your mind in the first place. And that's why it's time for you to achieve it. God wants you to achieve it. That's why you've thought of it. That's what you want, so you can have it. But you have to be worthy of it. But I'll tell you this right now, if you look for excuses for failure, you'll always find them. For you find what you seek. And I say to my videos, it doesn't matter what is true. The only thing that's true is what you think is true, because over time, it'll become true. And I'm going to touch on that as well when I describe the version of your desired situation, right? And so you do not have to focus on your circumstances. You don't have to focus on your current situation. on your journey over to your desired situation. Just move yourself to where you want to be internally, control your mind, and stay consistent, living from the end, no matter if your current situation says otherwise. It's all about being consistent and recreating, re-imaging a new concept of yourself, right? It's going to take some time. Right. And this is what the version of yourself in your desired situation understands. This version of yourself in your desired situation knows that your self-concept literally dictates everything, your circumstances, experiences, how lucky you are in life, getting your desired situation. Your concept of self is that important. This version of yourself in your desired situation remains faithful to the assumption of the desired situation. This version of yourself lives from the end successfully. This version of yourself operates day in and day out in the version. They walk, they talk, they act like the person that they know that they're supposed to be. That's the secret. This version of yourself realizes an assumption, though false, if sustained, will harden into a fact. That's what I was basically talking to you about when I was mentioning that it doesn't matter what's true, right? What matters is what you think is true, because over time it will become true. That's the same thing here, right? An assumption, although false, if sustained, will harden into a fact. So live from the end. Be aware of your thoughts, feelings, and overall emotions. You have no idea what you're capable of if you change your self-concept, right? And, the takeaways here is that it's all about your assumed I am. When you say I am, what comes after I am for you, right? I am broke, right? I am, not good enough. I am like, these are probably the negative thoughts that you might be having on a day-to-day basis, but that's not true, right? You can change this. And you can change it by realizing that your internal beliefs, your assumed I am, creates your external reality. So start to tell yourself who you want to be, who you actually are, right? I am limitless. I am abundant. I am wealthy. This is the thought processes that are supposed to occupy your wonderful human imagination. Embodying the wish fulfilled. I talk about it in all my videos, pretty much, the law of assumption. Choose a new concept, live in the end, control your mind, and align your consciousness to your desired situation, and watch it come into fruition. Because by controlling your mind and changing your self-concept, you're literally changing your future. Literally, in real time, you are bending space and time. Literally. So by giving faith to a new assumption, your desired situation will be achieved. The process of changing your concept of self is a continuous journey of growth. You're just not going to stop somewhere. Life is constant evolution. The only constant in this world is change. I know you've probably heard that, but there's truth to that, and that is absolutely real. And I'm going to end this by saying that no creation can ever be greater than its creator. Let me say that again. No creation can ever be greater than its creator. So go ahead and create that desired situation. Change your concept of self. Watch what happens. Good luck. This is Mekus with the Continence Club. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. My email's in the description if you want to work with me one-on-one, or if you have video topics for me to address. But other than that, I'll see you on the other side. Keep going.